our various icons from the south part of Nigeria, led particularly by the president of PANDEF and my senior brother, in fact, senior, we are gathered together with the family and elder statesmen of Niger Delta region to pay this solemn tribute to Sir Edwin de Klerk, a lion in Nigeria's political forest, a sentinel of justice, and a patriarch of uncommon courage. Let history record that in our time, there walked amongst us a man who did not bow to the tides of fear or fashion. He stood firm when it was easier to bend. He spoke when silence could have shielded him. And he loved Nigeria, not for what Nigeria was, but for what she hoped Nigeria would become. In the life of every nation, you have men that will arise and they embody the conscience of that nation. Sir Edwin Klerk was such a man. Born in the creeks of the Niger Delta, but his voice echoed in the corridors of power across the length and breadth of Nigeria. He was forged in the crucible of struggle, tempered by the fire of activism, but guided by the unrelenting belief that Nigeria must belong to all her children. Whether you are from the north, whether you are from the south, whether you are from the east, whether you are from the west, whether you are in the minority, or whether you are in the majority, Nigeria, every Nigerian should have a stake in his or her Nigerianness. He was not a man given to timid compromise. No. Sir Edwin Klerk was a thunderous advocate for equity, a towering oak in the landscape of our national discourse. When others whispered, he roared. When others hesitated, he marched forward. He taught us that patriotism is not passive. It is not silence in the face of injustice, but it is a sacred obligation to speak, to challenge, and to build a better world. His public life stretched across generations, from the First Republic to this Fourth Republic. And with each administration, he lent his wisdom. Whether the wisdom was welcomed or not, Edwin Klerk lent his wisdom to each and every administration and every generation. He was never a fair weather elder or a fair weather friend. He gave counsel in crisis, and he gave criticisms even in comfort. In a nation often caught between memory and promise, Sir Edwin Klerk reminded us of both what we had overcome and what we still must overcome to build a better Nigeria. To the youths of this nation, let me say this to you. The greatness of Sir Edwin Klerk was not that he held offices, but that he held conviction. He wielded no sword, but struck down ignorance with the power of truth. His greatest title was not that of minister or that of elder statesman, but that of what? Patriot. He was a great patriot for Nigeria. That was his greatest title, Patriot Edwin Clark. Let no one mistake the finality of this moment. We have not only come together today to signal the commencement of the burial of a man, but we are here to commence the burial of a monument. The monuments that inspired all generations. Monuments do not decay, but monuments remind us and continuously call us to higher duties. And so in this hour of national loss, let us not weep as those without hope. Let us rise with renewed dedication to the dreams that Edwin Clark carried. Let us remember that the light of a true patriot does not go out. That light passes like a torch into the hands of those still running the race and willing to remain patriotic. So to his family, the torch has been passed to you. We want to extend the gratitude of a grateful nation to the family of Pa Edwin Clark, that you produced a man who died with his conviction and who spoke the truth against injustice throughout his lifetime. To his region, we offer our solidarity as a Senate. And to Nigeria, we rededicate ourselves to the ideals that he championed: justice, unity, equity, and truth. Rest in peace, Sir Edwin Clark. You have run your course. You have kept the faith. You have spoken your truth. You are dying with your conviction. And now the soil of the land that you so dearly loved, Niger Delta, shall cradle you in its eternal embrace. May your memory be eternal, and may your legacy endure forever. I thank you for listening to me. Dismissed Senator Dixon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll be quite nostalgic. And that could very well have been it, Mr. President. And so I want to thank you as President and the leadership of the Senate for making it possible again for this formal valedictory session, which is now holding in the presence of the family, as is our custom of this Senate, as we are doing today. And you have just read a very powerful tribute. Very powerful tribute. I've not listened to a more moving and more passionate tribute delivered here on this floor. And having been identified and called upon to speak immediately after that, I would ordinarily have applied to rest on the case that you have so ably marshaled out. But here we are talking about a colossus. And words can never be enough to describe the personality, his life, his sacrifices and services for our people and our nation. Talking about Per Clark reminds you immediately about the story of the blind man and the elephant. Because not one blind man in their blindness could describe in totality what the elephant was. Each took it from the point that they were able to touch, the leg, the trunk, and so on and so forth. That's what happens when you are told to make comments about personalities like Per Clark that are done this world once in a while, living to a ripe, overripe age of 97, and contributing from the beginning of his youth with his virility and retaining his acuity of mind and actively serving till the very last day and almost dying in service, in active service. So, Mr. President, I will only summarize that he lived a great life of service and dedication with dignity and with conviction. Right from his days as student leader in the UK, as a teacher amongst our people in the Western Ijaw division, as it was at that time, and in all the offices to which he was appointed in the government of the old Midwestern state. His work with General Ijaw, his work with Brigadier Ogbemudia, with whom he worked as Commissioner of Education, Commissioner for Finance. And as I said, and this is very significant, the Senate leader in his very eloquent motion talked about Per Clark's efforts in building what has become the University of Benin, a fact that most people may not readily remember. Did it under General Ogbemudia's direction. But for me, I probably wouldn't be standing here. But for the schools, the secondary school that Per Clark, as Commissioner for Education in the Western region, built in Torebeni, and he later told me and called the contractor, the late Chief N.K. Pobini, that he directed to build that school, Government Secondary School Torebeni, which I later attended. There were no schools. And the one in Government Secondary School, Akpoti-Uduaghan. And his work in the Esenaibe College and all of that. The story of our people, my people, would probably not the same, but for the efforts of Per Clark as an educationist. No wonder later in his life, even at that old age, he used his meager resources to start the Edwin Clark University. I'm talking of education alone. But beyond this, he led our people. A number of people readily talk about Pandef, whose national chairman is here. And I speak not for him. I can also see the president of the Ijaw National Congress that I had the honor of serving, Professor Kaba, as the national legal advisor, which I was. And all of us benefited readily from his mentorship. And he guided and supported all of us. As governor for 8 years, his house was always free for me to consult, and for all our colleagues, including Mr. Senate President, all of us from that region, and even far beyond. And he kept doing that to the very last. He was chairman of the INC Board of Trustees. He and our leader, Harold Dapabriye of blessed memory, Chief Melford Okilo, blessed memory, in whose company he has gone to join now, working with their colleagues and allies within the region, Ita, Udodoma, all Ogbemudia, Ijaw, Dafinone, all of them across, they were all working together. Marere, all of them were working together. Pa Clark, truly, is the last of the Titans. He formed with his colleague SOPEC, the South-South People's Conference. He was the leader of the South-South group of leaders. He was the leader of the Southern Leaders Forum, Southern Nigeria Leaders Forum. He was the leader of the Southern Nigeria and Middle Belt Leaders Forum. Pandef, it's one of his well-known babies, but actually, it's a last born. But he has also mentored and left it in very capable hands, most of whom are here. So, I want to thank you and thank Pa Clark for his selfless and courageous dedication to the service of our people, of this country, and working for what was right and truth. Just before I sit, Pa Clark was always building bridges. Pa Debanjo, his brother, is also gone. Ezeife went before them. I think among that level is only Tanko Yakasai, who is alive. And yesterday I was pleased that his daughter was there at the 9th day of tributes. Let us rededicate ourselves as we pay tributes to the ideals that Pa Clark and his friends and colleagues all believed in. The ideal of a united, peaceful Nigeria, but founded on justice and inclusivity. A Nigeria that is for all, not for the big without the small, but a Nigeria for the big as well as the small, for the strong as well as for the weak. That was the Nigeria that they fought for. May his gentle soul rest peacefully in the bosom of our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Because of time,
all the senator from Bayelsa and the senator from Delta, they have all said this man was so dear to my family personally, to my father, to my living mother, and to everyone, even from his house here to my place. He comes to visit me. His brothers, his everybody, his children, the people there, I always come to see him. So for me, it's emotional to speak again. If you will accept me, that I say, may his soul rest in peace, and we'll meet again. Thank you very much.
thank you.
You have already
of reflection, and you have said everything in your tribute. The only thing we can say is for us that are coming up, we will seek to look at his virtues and see how we can emulate him. May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Energetic and transparently honest. Mr. Senate President, I met this gentleman several years back when I was made the chairman of Niger Delta crisis in the House of Representatives. So I had an official visit to him. He had his own reservation as to whether or not somebody known from Niger Delta will be able to appreciate the terrible human degradation of Niger Delta. And from there, I took him around what we've done in the house and what I did, my travels across the creeks of the Niger Delta, and he was so delighted that someone somewhere who is not from the Niger Delta should have that kind of sympathy and empathy to what is happening in Niger Delta. And I assured him that the National Assembly at that time, the House in particular, was actually Niger Delta bias. And in fact, when we were able to do the onshore-offshore dichotomy bill, and we passed it, and some of us galvanized almost the totality of the Northern Board on the passage of onshore-offshore dichotomy. During that evening, Edwin Clark called and was so delighted that Nigeria could just be one. And at that material time, we kept relationship. Sometimes I send him a text. But what you take out of this, the entire life of Edwin Clark on the emancipation of the Niger Delta is truly the emancipation of every struggle in Nigeria. And therefore, wherever there is emancipation, the struggle is the emancipation of every other place. I know we are running short of time, but one thing that I will take away is that Edwin Clark is never an AGP. That means any government in power. He speaks truth to power. Just like you said, Mr. President, you look at that man at that age, he's a voice of voiceless. And when he speaks, every nick and cranny of this country listen. And that's why a character like that. And when he died, I was taken aback whether or not we are going to have somebody that has that capacity, that energy, that drive to be able to speak for Niger Delta, for the Ijaws, for Southern Nigeria, and for Nigerians at large. May the soul of Edwin Clark rest in peace.
Commissioner. And he went ahead, though from Midwest. He went to rebuild schools in Enugu and rehabilitated the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, which was actually built when my uncle was the Minister of Education in Eastern Region, Dr. Akpoti-Uduaghan. But it had gone down because the bullets and bombs destroyed most of the facilities. Then he went ahead to send about 9 science teachers from the Midwest to the then Benue Plateau State to go and assist them educationally. And then from there, he brought students from the North Central, that's Benue Plateau State, to come and school in the Midwestern region and parts of Enugu State, and brought many other students from the North to the Midwest. Today, many of them are prominent citizens of our country. So I was looking at distinguished Senator Lalong, and I was wondering whether he was one of those beneficiaries. So I said I must give him an opportunity to say so, in case it was his father that was a beneficiary. But if he was a beneficiary, please pay your last respect to Sir Edwin Clark.
President, when Dixon mentioned some of his contemporaries, he left out one important one, Chief Solomon Lar. That is why I will fall within the category of his beneficiaries. My siblings were, because he sent a lot of people from the southwest, from the south to Plateau State. But the most important thing, Mr. President, was when he introduced a concept called handshake across the Niger. As a Speaker of the House of Assembly then, Solomon Lar led us to the Niger Delta. For me, it was the first time to experience Niger Delta, to also understand Niger Delta. Before that, we were thinking that Niger Delta was a hope for agitators. But at the time we got to Niger Delta, I also had opportunity to stretch my hand to the Niger Delta. And when we came back, Plateau was not the same again. At the time of our travel, during impeachment and so on, Chief Edwin Clark spoke for us more than any other person. He was the voice of the minorities. Today, I am still a minority, also a northerner. But the voice is still there, crying. It was there crying when we lost Chief Solomon Lar, and Chief Edwin Clark took his place. Today, he is gone. On behalf of the good people of Plateau State, and especially the North Central Zone, we'll also join you in praying that may the soul of Edwin Clark rest in peace, and all his other contemporaries. I will also support the fact that something be done in his memory, not only putting his name on the national award, but at least, because I used to ask, something should go beyond putting somebody or naming a street. Let us let the younger ones know that he did something. And the only way to do something is that let some events be done yearly in his memory. That's the only thing that our young children will know. May the soul of Edwin Clark and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. President.
Deputy avalanche of tributes today, it clearly shows that the demise of your late patriarch and icon, his sweat on earth, definitely were not in vain. From the North Central, the very powerful remembrance by Senator Lalong of what I said he did when he was a federal commissioner. And even the proposition he brought forward of the handshake across the Niger that united our people, which is still on today in the minds of the people, clearly shows that the efforts that he made were and could never have been in vain. I'm saying this because I understand that just yesterday, one of the presidential aspirants in the last election, Peter Obi, His Excellency and former governor of Anambra, said that the labors of our leaders who have passed on were in vain. They were not in vain. The mere fact that Nigeria is still standing together shows clearly that their labors were not in vain. Very few countries that came up with the size of Nigeria are still together today. Many have been fragmented. But Edwin Clark lived through the days of USSR, and they went into they scattered into various countries. And up till now, there is still war, trying to see whether they can come back together. Nigeria, despite our difficulties, God has kept us together because of the voices of people like Edwin Clark. So clearly, his labor and labors were not in vain. And for those in the social media who like to tweet, Nigeria has an unregulated social media system. So they let them wallow in it and then take a disadvantaged situation and propagate all sorts of falsehood and all sorts of narratives. Some of them in the social media were not even born when Edwin Clark was very active in service. And so they couldn't have known some of the things he did that we are remembering today. And yet, when somebody makes a statement that the labors of our heroes past are in vain, I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party. for a man who wants to run Nigeria. You have one of the smallest parties in Nigeria, and you cannot even resolve the crisis in that Labour Party. Is it the crisis of Boko Haram that you will come and resolve in Nigeria? I would like us to be known for what we did when we had the opportunities. As I speak now, I can tell you about the dualized thoroughfares in my state. I can tell about the flyovers in my state. I can tell about the best international hospital in my state. I can tell you about the monuments of government houses that are built, both for the governor and deputy. I'm one of the best digitalized governor's office in Nigeria. I can tell you about the best international stadium in West Africa. I can tell you about the free and compulsory education that I did for all Nigerians. I can tell you about the unity I brought in religion by sponsoring over 5,800 Muslims to the Holy Land and over 12 to 15,000 Christians to Rome and to Jerusalem. But then, those who are aspiring as presidential candidates and trying to cause division with their mouths, using the social media, tell them to resolve the small crisis in the smallest party they have in Nigeria first, before they come to talk about the larger Nigeria. But for the social media, it is unregulated. I wish you luck as you have a field day. I'm saying this because this is what Edwin Clark would have advised if he were alive. So I've started to speak his voice. May his soul rest in perfect peace. And on that note, may we rise to observe 1 minute silence in honor of this icon. Let me, before we do so, just to recognize that while we're speaking, the leader of the House of Representatives, our brother, walked in from Niger Delta region, Professor Julius Ihombe. Leader, we are happy to see you, even though you are staying at the back. You should have come to the front. And of course, I didn't see him, but I've been told that right in front of us, that we have the leader of Ijaw Nation, Professor Benjamin Okaba, who is the President General of Ijaw Nation. Okay, he's there. He's acknowledging Ijaw National Congress worldwide, not just for Nigeria, but all over the world. And I'm happy that you are part of this delegation. But we now, all together, give 1 minute silence in honor of this departed icon.